And here we are for another live bomb run. This is Stuka Joe from San Juan, Puerto Rico. It is 8:04 in San Juan and the east coast of the United States. I think it's 5:04 in California, so welcome everybody. And we have 19 people right off the bat. We have the one and only Bend Over, New York Raider fan, Viper Dave, Leaves of Autumn, Larry Pearson, Ed Holzman, Groucho Mark, Eric from Eric's Napoleonic Battles, Al Johnson, Francisco Javier Ruiz Gomez from Spain, Harold Demi 1942, Joe Quiñones, John Halley from Great Britain, and John McGuinness. So hello everybody. So today gonna announce some changes. You probably noticed things have been quite different, but I'll let you know. So let's start off with here what is going on. And let me put on the presentation to see if it wants to work. Just a second here. Okay. Let's see if it wants to work. Let's see. What is going on with the channel? Well, if you've noticed recently, we have Rick Cox, hello also. We have been doing a lot of live streaming, and normally I do a lot of edited videos. And I added a live stream in Spanish, and I just noticed I'm doing all live streaming. And live streaming is great. I know it has its charm, it has its attractiveness, right? But I like to do edited content. So what we will be doing is we will be doing 2 live streams the same day. And but before we go into those details, for those of you who like area impulse games, there's an attack defense value track that I did in BGG. I did it specifically for Stalingrad Advance on the Volga. That's a game designed by Mike Rinella, which is a solitaire game. So it's not an area impulse because it's just one player, but it borrows the same mechanics. You have to calculate attack values for both sides. And sometimes it's a pain in the ass when you're doing that off the top of your head, even if you're using a little die to flip around. And I've received a lot of feedback. People really like this way of keeping track of things. You have this display there that goes from 1 to 24, and you add, for example, the values of the Soviet units plus the terrain effects modifiers, and then you do the same for the Germans. You add whatever resources you're using, then you roll the die, and it's easier to not screw up the calculation. So it's available in BGG in the file section for Stalingrad Advance on the Volga. And what I'm planning to do is do a similar one, but with a lot of flags from different conflicts in countries like American Civil War, World War I. So whenever you're playing an area impulse game, which normally you have to calculate for both sides, you can use those. So that is available. So you use the track, Al, so I'm glad you did. And we have Alan Salazar also. Welcome, Alan. So let's talk about the changes in the channel. And all changes, I mean, the idea is to improve. So if you have probably noticed, we're doing a live stream in English, now one in Spanish. And what, for example, starting June 11th, which is next weekend, we're going to have the live stream in Spanish, which is called El Ángulo Interesante, the interesting angle. And because it's geared for people in Spain, and the good time there, for some reason, Europeans go to bed later than people here in the Western Hemisphere. Like a good time is from 10 to 11 p.m. over there. Here it would be like too late, I think. But that means that the show starts at 4 p.m. Eastern. So I do that show at 4 p.m. Eastern, and after finishing the Spanish show, I take finishes at 5. I got a 3-hour break, and then I'll do this one, the live bomb run. And the reason for doing these at the same time is because we're going to showcase the same game. And that way I don't have a mental salad, learning the rules of one game to show and showing 2 different games and screwing that up. Now, we are going to have, of course, games that come from Spain and sometimes games that come from anywhere, the United States, showcased on both channels. The difference is that in the Ángulo Interesante, it's in Spanish. I also have the assistance of Francisco Javier, who is in the live stream. He does the news for me. And I'm not discarding teaming up with someone for this particular show, but I wanted to give it a little bit more structure. The idea here, guys, is a relaxed 1 hour of wargaming. At this time, you should be in your home. And, you got work tomorrow, so you got to go to bed a little earlier than on a weekend. So it's a relaxing hour, showing you a game, not trying to, to discover the Nile River here, but showing you a game, talking about war games, showing you maybe some mechanics. And that's basically the idea. And we're going to incorporate whatever good ideas from the Spanish show and vice versa. So that's what's going to happen starting June 11th. And that's going to be every 2 weeks. So the next one's going to be on June the 25th. Now, today we will be showcasing a game that, before that, showcasing games. This is something that's going to change also. I'm going to try to incorporate a recorded portion of the game showcase. Why? Because it makes, I think, the show flow better. And I can bring a lot of information in those 10 minutes that live would take a lot of time and would be cumbersome. And I want to get your idea on that. It would be 10 minutes, a recorded part of the game we're showcasing. And after that, we would have 20 minutes live on the table. My goal is, if I can, and I'm showcasing a game that I can get a hold of the designer or the company that is publishing the game, or somebody, it can be a war gamer who is very knowledgeable about the game, a playtester. This part, then the live on the table part, which is what you see me doing mostly in these live streams, I can get somebody there to be with me. And I think it would be helpful for anybody who's interested in the game, because, of course, I don't know as much as the designer or the developer. So that's the changes that I intend to implement in the game showcase portion of this show, as well as the one in Spanish. Now, today, which is the game we'll be showcasing, it is Albuera 1811. So, Eric, this is right up your alley. This is a game about the Napoleonic Wars in Spain. I understand it's the bloodiest battle in Spain in what the Spanish call the War of Independence, which is when they fought against the French during Napoleonic times. So this is the game we'll be showcasing. It's a game by Strategie Mata, which is a Polish publisher. And the designer is Adam Niekwicz, and I hope I pronounced that right. And we will also be giving away a shrink wrap copy of this game. So we're showing it and giving a shrink wrap copy of the game as well. So we will also have today a blast from the past. And which game we're going to show? Well, in a blast from the past, I never tell. Let's not kill the mystery. This is a way of keeping you guys in the live stream until the end. So we're going to show you briefly a very old game which is dear to my heart, which I played a lot, and I still have the original copy of that game. So that's going to be part of the blast from the past. And Also, the next bomb run, as I stated before, will be on June 11th at 8 p.m. And what do you think about that time, guys? I could move it to 9, but I think 8 p.m. works well. I know people in the West Coast, that's 5 p.m. So what do you think about the time? It could be 8, it could be 9. It's not written in stone. But the game we're going to show, and if it arrives to my doorsteps from Europe, is going to be one that you haven't seen before. It's called Ciudad de Patriotas, City of Patriots. This is a game that is going to be published by Trafalgar Editions. They did games that I featured in this channel, Navíos de Línea. These are pretty straightforward and simple naval battles of the Age of Sail using minis. Well, they're doing a game about the uprising in Madrid on the 2nd of May, 1808. That's the date that is known for the War of Independence in Spain to commence. And the War of Independence in Spain means independence from France. So that's when Spain ceased to be an ally of the French, and they just went with a bloody uprising, which was repressed by the French, and it started a very bloody guerrilla war, and then it prompted the British to invade the peninsula, and then you had up to 1814, there was a continuous conflict. There's a ton of battles of the Peninsular War that I never knew there was so much, because there was intense fighting for 6 years there. So that's the game, and we will be, in the Spanish channel, we will be interviewing Crisanto Lorente, and I think Crisanto is also the designer of the game. So I'm looking forward to receiving that game this week, and that will be the game that we will be featuring. So let's go now to the, we have here that people say that 8 is perfect, 8 or 9 works. And that's 5 p.m. California time. I know it. So that would be the earliest, would be 5. So it'd be 8 or 9. I'm inclined for 8 because I myself have work the next day. so for now, it should be 8 unless we change that around. So what we will do right now is go to our game showcase section. So let's go to the intro and right into the game. Okay, so the game is Albuera 1811, Beresford versus Salt, Strategemata, the Polish publisher, and the designer is Adam Nikwicz. And this is a battalion level game. The cover of the box has a Polish lancer there, fighting with British soldiers. So you got the Polish lancers in the game. And this is a game for 2 players, but you have forces from 3 nations on the map. You have the French in blue. You have the Portuguese, which I'm surprised the ratings are pretty good for the Portuguese. And I understand that was so when they were accompanied by British officers. You have, of course, the British in red, and you have the Spanish in this dark tan color. And the French devised a plan where they split their forces and tried to envelop the right flank of the Allied army with a surprise attack here. Didn't go well for the French, and they got a bloody nose. And here is the map. The map is a standard paper map. You see there's several tones here. This is increased elevation here, this brown tone. You have woods here, or forest, it's what it's called. And then you have, typical of Spain, the olive groves there. You have the confluence of 2 rivers, the Nogales River coming here, and the Chicapierna River. And they converge right there at Albuera, where you see the British have their units. And there's you can see there's units that are these elongated rectangle types, as well as the 1 counter units. The counters, I think they're about 5/8 of an inch. These are the counters, and they're 2-sided. So these are 5/8 of an inch, and each one represents a battalion. And I think in the intent here the intent of the designer was to reduce counter clutter. So there's no formation markers. Of course, what you have instead of formation markers is that units, you have various types of counters for individual units depending on the formation they are in. So let's take a closer look here at the counters here. You see here, for example, you see there the commanding officer, General Godinot. Godinot is a brigade commander in the game. You see an artillery unit, and you see also infantry in column. So here is the officer, artillery. These units are in column, and when they are in column, their fire capability is diminished, and that is denoted by that 20% notation. That means that their manpower is multiplied by 20%, and that's the firepower that they project. Now, let's take a close look at the ratings that are there. The top circle rating, which is always in red, that in this game is the morale rating. And morale is, I think this game is based, morale-based. You do morale checks like crazy. And the game, yes, we have a question here. The game scale, it's 150 meters per hex, 15 minutes per turn. There's 16 turns. So that's the units, basically, infantry units fire at 2 hexes away, the longest that they can. So these are units that are in column. And you can see, for example, this is the 16th Ledger, probably brigade, and you see the 3 battalions there. So if we would want to place those particular units, I'm looking for the equivalent counter outside here. Let's say that they're going to change to line formation. So what we would do is we pay the appropriate cost, and then we substitute the counter. So let's say that 116 changes to line formation. We just substitute the counter. But I know there's no perfect solution, because you're gonna have to spend time searching for the counter and switching it. And but it's a lot cleaner in terms of markers. That doesn't mean there's no markers in the game. There are markers in the game. Let's place the column counter back. There are markers in the game, and we'll show you those, what they are used for. So that's a unit in column, and then you have line units. Some line units, which have 8 or more manpower, are expressed as these 2 hex units. And you can see this one, which is the 2nd Battalion of the 51st Brigade or Regiment, and it has a manpower of 8, but it only projects 66% of that manpower when it fires. So that would be 66% times 8. That's 5.28. So you would round to the closest integer, 5. And you have to also multiply or divide by the number of hexes. So let's take a look at a combat example, show you how it works here. So here we have, this unit doesn't start the game here. I just placed it there for this example. Let's say that the French activate, and this is a game that uses chit activation. So I think it's good for solitaire. So you pull out a chit, and it's going to tell you a brigade commander that you can activate, or a division. You can activate a whole division if you pull out the division commander. Let's say they activated the brigade of Godinot, and you're going to execute fire with these 2 units. The only way that 2 units can combine fire against a different unit is if each of the units is in the flank of the other. There's facing in this game. These units face towards a vertex, like you see here. This single counter, these are the frontal hexes, these are the flank hexes, and these are the rear hexes. Or the double unit, These would be the frontal hexes, flank, and these would be the rear hexes here. So if you have two units that are in their flanks, two friendly units, you can combine, those units can fire together, and the scale is 150 meters per hex. Now, what you do is you take one unit, and let's say we take this one, and you multiply first manpower by the percentage of firepower that the unit can project. So we already determined 8, 66% of 8 is 5, right? And then you divide by the range. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. You can round up to 3. So we're at 3, and for each additional hex over 1, which is firing, here we would have 3 hexes that are firing, because you count these as 2. For each additional hex over 1 that is firing, you add 1 row shift. So there will be 2 favorable row shifts, not column shifts. You will see how that works now. So let's say that we go to the table here, to the musket fire table, and we locate, let me get this out of the way, we locate the result here on the column. And we stated it was 2.5 rounded to 3. So that falls in the 2 to 4. But because we have 3 hexes that are firing, that's 3 is 2 over that first one. So you go down 2 rows, 8 and more. So that means that the effect is a morale check on the defenders with a +2 added to it. So you don't have to roll to hit. You just roll exactly, you just roll for a morale check. And depending on the intensity of the attack will be the numbers that are added. Now, there are modifiers for the morale check after fire combat. For example, if a target occupies a forest hex, that's a -1. You have to roll equal or less than morale to not be affected. So you have these factors here that benefit the target, like the hex it occupies, village, olive grove, and forest, and a target that is in skirmish order, obviously is more dispersed, harder to hit. Then you have factors that are detrimental to the defenders, like if a target unit is in column. Oh, then that only applies to artillery fire. These apply to artillery fire if it's in column and square. But this one applies here to what is called musket fire. If it's fired through its flank or rear, that's pretty logical. And here you have 3 asterisk, does not apply to musket fire. So you have some factors that apply. So let's say that it's an attack on with 8 or more, so it's a 2M. So we add 2 to the morale of the unit. Notice that that unit it's a Spanish unit. Morale is the top number in red, always 5. So Spanish units have a pretty low morale. So we're going to roll 1d10 and add 2. And the roll is a 4 plus 2, 6. So the unit fails the morale check. And when it fails the morale check, that means it will have to retreat. Now, if it would have failed by a particular number, 9 or more, then it would receive a hit. So there's going to be a lot of fire going on in this game. Units can fire up to 4 times per turn. So when a unit fires, you also place a corresponding marker on the unit. And I think there was another +1 I didn't add because these units fired the first time. Oh, these are hit markers. If the Spanish unit would have received a hit, you place that marker there. Now, the first time that a unit fires, we place a fire marker of 1. So these units fired for the first time, you place a fire marker of 1, and they would receive, that fire would receive, because it's the first fire during the turn, a +1 to the morale check. So that would have been a +1. The Spanish unit would not pass the morale check anyway. So that is practically how musket fire is conducted in the game. There's also hand-to-hand combat, which is clash, called clash. And hand-to-hand combat, the units have to be in the same hex. So there can be situations where a unit can be in the same hex, and then you have hand-to-hand combat there. Units will retreat or will be adversely affected. So looking at the counters, you see that they have that expression of 66%. That's only for fire combat. That when you look at the Portuguese, which I was really impressed at the ratings of the Portuguese. And if Eric is around, here you see the Portuguese can fire 100% of the manpower they have there in those units. You have a manpower of 6. Morale is 6, which is better than the Spanish. You have a Portuguese unit there with a morale of 7. So those are the Portuguese. The British, of course, have higher morale. You see 7 on most units, some 6s. And the Spanish have a morale of 5. Have a lot of troops, but low morale. Okay. So let me place the, I forgot to do that, the banner for the first keyword. We will be giving away a copy of the game. And this is Albuera 1811, a shrimp wrap copy. I'm not a huge Napoleonic fan. I have a lot to learn, but it's one of those epochs that I'm very interested. So let's place the first keyword is, of course, hashtag Albuera. Hashtag Albuera. And we have Jeff Anderson. Welcome. Matt Davidson. And Tony's Board Life. Oh, I forgot to hit Matt. Here he is. Matt Davidson. 8 works for you. Okay. And Tony's Board Life. And I know Eric has covered several Albuera games. So Eric knows this battle like the palm of his hand. Okay. So this is Albuera by Strategimata. It's a Polish publisher. I think I did one of their games before, which is the Battle of Molwitz with Frederick the Great, the first main battle of Frederick the Great. So this is Albuera. What else can I tell you about the game? The game, let me see, is activation based. You place the activation markers in this cup and you draw them. For example, if you draw this marker, means you can activate General Godinot, who is a brigade commander. So you can activate his units, and all the command range for all the units is the same. They have to be within 3 hexes of the commander in order to be activated. And you see that they're color-coded also. Godinot has like a gray stripe there. So you have his units in gray, color-coded, so you can change them, change the formation. You can move, you can fire, and you can fire 4 times in the game. But of course, there's a penalty. The first time you fire, your opponent gets a +1 to his morale check, which you're always going to get a morale check inflicted on the enemy. The second time, there's no problem. The third and fourth times that you fire, there, I believe there's a penalty for the firing side. Let me see if I can find that because I saw that. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, I can't find it now. Okay. A +1 modifier is applied when a unit performs musket fire for the third or fourth time. No, this is something different. No, I think that was something different. Well, as usual, I can't find it now. This is a good reason for edited video. Okay. But I know there's like a penalty for the firing side when they fire that third or fourth volley. And this was a very bloody battle because the French concentrated the bulk of their forces here, and they just went against the Spanish, and the Spanish actually held this time. It was customary to see the Spanish run, but for some reason in this particular battle they held, and it was a real bloody nose. And this battle determined the control of Badajoz. Badajoz is nearby. Actually, Badajoz is where the convention that I go every year is held. Badajoz was a very important city in Spain because it guarded the entrance to Spain and the Guadiana River, which is one of the principal rivers in the Iberian Peninsula. It had a very important bridge there, and it was always a point of contention between the Spanish and Portuguese, and then the French and the Allies there. There's a nearby town in Portugal called Elvas. If you go to Badajoz, you should go to Elvas also. Heavily fortified. There's like 5 castles there that are in top condition, and it's a really nice historical site to see. So here we see the forces of both sides. There is, in terms of player aids, there's a terrain effects chart. And let me see if I can get this back. Here we are. There's a terrain effects chart on the board, and you can see that the movement of the units is not expressed on the counters. If you're in line formation, the cost of the terrain is going to vary. And if you're in column formation, the same. There's varying costs depending on the formation. You can also place your units in skirmish formation. And skirmish formation has its benefits when fired upon, but also you cannot join fire. When you're firing with skirmish units, they fire by themselves, so they have their pros and cons. And as with the other counters in the game, when you convert a unit to skirmish formation, you substitute the unit's counter for its skirmish counter, like the one that you see here. See if it wants to focus there. So you got counters for skirmish, column, and line formation. Now artillery works a little bit different. We'll check how that works. But here you have, for example, the cost for cavalry. And of course, another formation is square formation. That infantry units can switch to square formation. And there you have the 20%. They can only fire 20% of their manpower, but of course, they have benefits against cavalry charges, which you can conduct in this game also. You have the movement cost for cavalry, and then you have artillery can be in 3 formations: foot, which means manhandled artillery. Then you have on horse and foot limbered. So that's interesting. Normally you see them in limbered and unlimbered. Here you have up to 3. Got 3 different formations. Then you have your turn record track and victory point track. How do you win this game? Their victory points are dependent on on eliminating enemy units. So let me check here just a second. The victory conditions, so you get an idea. Victory conditions, players receive victory points. If you win a clash, just by winning the clash, clash is the close combat that happens in the same hex, that's a victory point. And what would happen is, if the game starts at 0, let's say the French won a clash, you place it here in the 1 box. And let's say that the French later eliminated an enemy unit as a result of fire combat, that's an additional victory point. Also, if you capture enemy artillery, it's 2 victory points plus the number of white stars that artillery counters have, and they have from 2 to 3. Let's say they captured an artillery piece with 2, they would be at 5. But let's say that the Allies later eliminated a French unit, so you retreat this marker to 4. And you can keep on losing points as the French, and eventually then the Allied player has the victory point marker on his side. The side that wins is the one which at the end of the game has the victory point marker on his side. And there's automatic victory conditions. If before turn 16 the French player has reached 8, he wins the game. Or if the Allied player has reached 6 in his favor, then he wins the game. So those are the victory conditions. We have also here, you have a summary, like a summary of the units and the numbers on the units, what they mean. And we see, for example, a division commander like de Lardizabal. He commands these brigades that are color-coded. And there's a coordination rating that in order to move both of them, you have to roll equal or less than the coordination rating. So it's not automatic, if you draw his counter, that you'll be able to move both of his brigades. And you have, of course, the counters for Marshal Beresford, Commander-in-Chief of the Coalition Forces, and Marshal Soult. And they can activate any brigade regardless of range. So for an emergency, you can activate your Commander-in-Chief and move any brigade that is not even within range of its division commander, and move it and have battle with it. So that is the player aids that appear on the board. The game also includes setup cards. We have, there's basically just one scenario, and the game starts actually with very few units activated. You can see here that in the first turn, there's only Desayas for the coalition that is able to be activated. And then in the second turn, there's going to be a storm. And the players have to add to the activation pool a chit that represents the storm. And when the chit is drawn, the storm starts. And from that moment until the end of the second game turn, there's some effects here. Morale checks are resolved with an additional -1, which is good for the defending side. Movement allowance is reduced by 1. Command range is 2 hexes and not 3. So you're always going to have this storm. You just don't know when it's going to be activated. And then you have here's some chits, activation pool chits that are added as the game progresses. And you have your startup forces here. So this is the sheet for the coalition or allied player and for the French player. And there's an introductory scenario, the fight for a village. This would be like to learn the basic mechanics of the game. And the rule book is, have it here. It's black and white, matte. It's 2 columns. There are some examples of play. It's not a complex game. And it goes up to 12 pages. And you have like a historical background in page 13. So that is Albuera 1811 by Strategemata, designed by Adam Niekvish. And that's the game that we will be now giving away. So let's place first here the giveaway instructions, and we'll be right back. Participation is limited only to individuals in the United States and Puerto Rico. To participate, write the keyword shown during the live broadcast in the comments section. 1 winner per prize will be selected randomly during the broadcast. Within 24 hours, the winner must send an email to stukajoe@gmail.com stating the winner's YouTube handle and shipping address. An email with a verification code will be sent to the winner, and the winner must enter the verification code in the comments section of the giveaway video. Upon winner confirmation, the prize will be mailed to the winner's address. Okay, so here we have a total of 19 entries. 19 entries, and we're gonna go right now. So good luck, everybody. Let's see who wins Albuera. And the winner is Eric. 2 for 2. Eric Table. I couldn't think of anybody more worthy than Eric to win this game, knowing so much about not only Napoleonic battles, but Albuera. He's done various Albuera game-related videos. So Eric, congratulations. I have already your address, so you don't have to send anything to me, so I'll be shipping this to you tomorrow. So congratulations, Eric, on winning Albuera. And so, wow, he's in a roll. Eric, you should play the lottery or something, you know? Seriously. It's a pleasure. So that's Albuera goes to Eric from Eric's Table. And that is our first giveaway of the night. So let's place this baby here. And now we will be going to our next section. But before we go to our next section, let's pull out the game that we will be giving away for our next section. And what I'll do is I did a little video like we'll be right back, because it takes me like a minute to set up in the giveaway tool, everything. So we'll place that short video and we will be right back. And here we have our next, let me get the scrolling banner out of the way. Our next game, next giveaway is Commands and Colors, Ancients Imperial Rome expansion. So this is an expansion for Commands and Colors. It is one of those heavy 3-inch boxes. You can see it here. This is a game, if you like Commands and Colors and you don't have this one, so be my guest. Here you have a picture of the blocks. So this covers Imperial Rome. Imperial Rome. See how many battles this has. Let's focus in closely here. That's a lot of blocks. Let's see if it says the number of scenarios. That's something in German there. So I really don't know. It has some cards. But these are 24 epic battles. Okay, 24 scenarios. And the key word for this one is hashtag ancient. hashtag ancient for Commands and Colors Ancient expansion number 4. So it's, well, I put ancients. Oh, let me see, wait. Okay, let me fix this. I put ancient. I screwed up. So let me fix this a second. Okay. To be ancients. Okay. Ancients. Okay. We got 9 entries. Ancients. Hashtag ancients. Okay. See how many we have collected. Okay. Got 10 entries there. Okay, fine. So that's the one. So now we're going to our blast of the past. Blast from the past. So let's go to the intro and let's see which game we're going to show today. A blast from the past. Okay? Here we go. And in a blast from the past, we have Origins of World War II. This is an Avalon Hill game designed by James Dunnigan. I think it's 1972. And this is a game that when it came out, you know, wargamers weren't as open-minded as we are today, but it has held the test of time. I've seen this played at conventions, even though it's as a filler, because it's a game that lasts about an hour, and it's a really interesting 4-player game. Even though it can be played by 5, it's best played by 4, and you will see why. And this is a copy that I have. I have it set up on the board. I have another copy set up on the board, but this is an unpunched copy. So if you were purchasing this game in 1972, let me see, 1971, actually, this is what you would get. You have the pictures of the leaders on the back of the box. 2 to 5 player. It included a historical game, but some what-if scenarios, like if the Allies would had a pair and would have opposed Hitler, it would be different. So you have the contents there. So let's open the box and you'll quickly see what you would see if it was purchased then. Here you have the counters, and it has the historical German symbol, which today you never see in war games. And you have, for example, control markers, understanding markers, and political factors, which is the currency of what we use here in this game. They come in 1s, 3s, 5s, and 10s. So you have for the Germans, you have for the Americans, also, the French, you have for the Soviets, and I think the Brits must be here somewhere. Here they are. And the British. And then you would have the rules, which were these sheets that you would open. This was very typical of SPI games. This is a Dunnigan game. So you would open the sheet something like that, and it would be printed on two sides. This is a very simple game. And you have a section when you would play by mail. Remember those days? 2, 3, 4-player games. Now, the best way, I've played this a lot with my friends and family, is with 4 players. And the US, because it has so little political factors, that is, the US player is practically raffled each turn to see who controls the US player. So you have some optional rules and hints. And then you would have the national objective charts. This is, each player would get one of these, but the standard game would be the one you would use the historical game here. So here is where you score points. And this is a cool thing, 1971 asymmetrical in the sense of victory points. Not everybody scores the same points for the same areas. For example, the French score 6 victory points if they control Alsace-Lorraine. The Germans only 1 if they control it. And then if the French place an understanding in any of these areas, they get the points there. For example, in Britain, 4. Germany gets only 1 if places an understanding marker in Britain. But look at Germany. If it controls Rhineland, it gets 5 victory points. So the victory conditions are different in terms of gaining political control, which you have to be the sole power in that country at the end of a turn, meaning that you have to practically eliminate the opposition, and that's you obtain control. For understanding, you only have to have 5 political factors at the end of the turn, your turn in that area, and you place an understanding marker there. And the US would score differently. If no control marker at the end of the game was in Austria, the US would get 2 points, but the US player could almost never win because there was always going to be control and understanding markers everywhere. So this is the historical game victory point chart. And here you would have the diplomatic conflict table, and it's odds-based. A D means that the defender is eliminated. An X is that the defender removes all his political factors and the attacking player has to remove an equal number. Dash is no effect, and A is the attacking player removes all his political factors. And here you have the number of political factors that each side receives each turn and the order. So the US receives 2 in the first turn, France 4, Britain 8, Russia 6, and Germany always receives more and goes last. And this is a game which is also diplomacy is also encouraged. Players, Germany, because of the amount of political factors, there's going to be the French, the British, sometimes the Russians teaming up to place political factors in a coordinated fashion, so the Germans have their life is harder. And then you have these yellow national objective charts. These are for the variants. Aggressive French policy. Here the French get points if they control areas. This supposes a more aggressive French government. And you have different number of political factors. Look at the French. They get 54 in turn 6. When normally, with the in the historical game, in turn 6, they only receive 14. So you have various of these scenarios: aggressive French policy, aggressive French-British policy, anti-Bolshevik crusade. Here the US receives more political factors than normal. Aggressive British-US alliance, aggressive French policy, and aggressive French-British policy. There's 4 of them. So each player would get one of these. And then the game would include, which is really cool, a historical booklet. And these Avalon Hill games, bookcase games of the 70s, originally contained a book like this. So you have a historical commentary there, designer notes, and negotiations and diplomacy, suggestions and examples, chronology of events. This was so cool at that time. And then you have the leaders of each of the countries, the historical leaders. And then you have the board, which I have here, but I have already set up the game here. So you see the map. And the board is basically a map of Europe. There's some gray areas like Switzerland. You have Belgium and the Netherlands. East Prussia is grayed out because it's part of Germany here. And then you have Hungary and Yugoslavia that don't participate. But all the other countries are represented, and players can place political factors in any of the playable areas, even though in some of them there's not enough space here. Alsace-Lorraine says France and Germany because they're the ones that score the most points here, but Britain and Russia they could place there. So what I've done is I've already placed, for example, the United States goes first, and the United States placed one political factor in Poland and the other one in the United States. And the cool thing about placing political factors in your home country is that in a future turn, you can move them to some other place. So they act as a reserve. Of course, you're defending your own country from political attacks, but at the same time, political factors in your country act as a reserve. So the US only had 2 political factors and placed them there. Then we have France, which in the first turn has only 4 political factors. And because France gains so many points in that first turn with in Alsace-Lorraine, here's this is the one, the beat up one that we used to play. So you can see the condition. France gets 6 points if it controls Alsace-Lorraine. So France has been pretty aggressive. And this is supposed to be a 4. Because France, 3. France only receives 4. Just notice it now. Let me place a 3 one here. Here it is. Now it's correct. So France receives only 4 political factors in the first turn. So it placed a 3 here and a 1 in its home country so it can move it later. After France comes Britain, and Britain can place up to 8. It can place 8 political factors. Let's see what Britain did here. Britain went for the jugular here, placed 5 in Germany. Why place 5 in Germany? Because if at the end of the turn, those 5s are there. At the end of the British turn, the National Objectives chart calls in Germany for Britain to place an understanding marker. Understanding markers have profound effects on the game. Let's say that Germany does not attack those 5 PFs, and at the end of the turn, Britain has an understanding. That means that Germany cannot attack any British PFs until it eliminates the understanding from Germany. And we saw that Britain placed 5 there of the 8. It placed 1 in Austria because Germany makes 4 points there if it obtains control. It placed also 1 in Poland. Germany also makes, I think, in Poland, Germany scores 3 points if it obtains a control. Notice that now here you have the US and the Brits like in coordinated effect here. There's 2 political factors defending there in Poland. And the other political factor was placed in the Rhineland, where Germany makes 5 victory points if it controls it. Okay. Then after the British come the Soviets, and the Soviets, seeing the deployment of the initial batch of political factors, they went for the kill here. They placed 5 political factors in the Baltic countries, in the Baltic states, where they get 5 victory points, and you can see it here, 5 victory points if they control the Baltic states. So at the end of their turn, unless Germany wants to attack them, they'll get a control marker. And once a control marker is placed in a particular area, that area is closed for the rest of the game. That country has control of that particular minor country, and that's it. So Russia would be assured those victory points. And the other political factor was placed in Russia as a reserve. So I left it at the point where it's the Germans' turn to place political factors. So what are the Germans going to do? The Germans will, first the British obtain, after the end of placing, I think they get their understanding marker there. Or is it at the end of the turn? I think no, it's at the end of the turn. The Germans, in any event, are going to attack here. The British, they're going to place 10 political factors. I'm doing this quickly just to give you an idea of the mechanics. And they're going to also go here in Poland, 2, 3, and 4. So they place 10 political factors here. No, 10 is 5. Okay, that's 5, 8, 9, 10. So they got some more here. And they're going to place these here. So we're going to have an attack here, a diplomatic attack. And we have 8, 10. That's a 2-to-1 attack. The box also brings a table, a diplomatic conflict table, which we will use here as a background. So this is a 2-to-1 attack. And then we roll 1 die, 1d6. And the result is a 1. That's a D. That's the defender is eliminated. So that means that the British, their 5 political factors are gone. So the Germans have their political factors there. And as I stated before, because they're in their home country, in the next turn, they can move them out somewhere else. So that's the good thing about having those political control markers there. Let's resolve another one here. This one is 4, 5, 6. This is 3-to-1. But this is even better. And let's see the table here, the 3-to-1 table. So here we go. 1d6. And it's a 3 also, defender eliminated. So it was very fortunate for the Germans. They eliminated all opposition there. And what happens now, it's the end of the turn, because the Germans have at least 5 political factors, and they're the sole occupants. There, they get a control marker there. So what we do is we eliminate all the political factors, and we place a control marker in the area. Now the Germans have scored for control of Poland 3 points. So the Germans already start with 3 points in that first turn. So that's basically in a gist how the game mechanically works. But of course, there's all types of deals you can do here. And in order to win, I think the Germans have to have a minimum number. See the winning conditions. I forgot them. So let's see what the victory conditions are. See if I can find them. This is the thing about this particular sheet here. How to win. The game is won on points. The player with the most points at the end of the game is the winner, and whoever gets points, okay, so as shown in the tables that I show you, is the winner. And if either Germany or Russia wins the game with 15 or more points, it is considered that World War II has broken out. So that is basically mechanic-wise all it takes here in this game. It's not a very complicated game. It's a really fun game. I remember playing this ad nauseum with my brothers, my friends. Had a great time. And it is the great thing about this game, it is still widely available. They published tons and tons of copies of Origins of World War II. So you can probably get a nice copy. You can still get it in the secondary market. It is still available. So that is Origins of World War II. And yeah, it has swastikas. And it's interesting because at that time it wasn't a problem, you know? And most of the designers in SPI, because this is basically a Donegan game, if you see SPI games, they had that symbol and there was no problem. Most of them were Jewish. They understand history, didn't have a problem with it. I think it's people who don't understand history. But let's not get into that topic now. Let's go over to our next giveaway, which is for the GMT's Commands and Colors Ancients. So let's place that here. on the table, and let's go to that giveaway. So we have it here. Let's see how many people we have. A total of 12 entries for Commands and Colors Ancient, and we will go at it now. Good luck. Let's see who wins Commands and Colors Ancients. And the winner is St. Louis Keith. Congratulations. And Keith won another game not a long time ago. So you got a bunch of lucky guys here. They're two-time winners. So St. Louis Keith, I have your address, Keith, so don't worry about it. You don't have to write to me. And so both of our winners have won before. So congratulations. And that's our second giveaway, Commands and Colors Ancients. So we've reached the end of this live bomb run. It's an hour and 8 minutes, man. Time flies. We have 35 people still tuning in. So thanks for tuning in, guys. And we will be back next week on the 11th. We will be with, hopefully, Ciudad de Patriota, City of Patriots. That is a game that is to be published soon by Trafalgar Editions about the Spanish uprising against the French in 1808. It's a very unusual topic. You don't see a lot of games on that specific topic. It has cards. It's area movement. It's a very nice production. I've seen it at the convention. And we will be doing our Spanish and English show the same day. Let's see how that goes. Okay? So I appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning in. For me, it's always a pleasure to do these. And we're going to be doing these every 2 weeks so that I have enough space for doing some edited videos too, which I also enjoy. So I want to thank each and every one of you guys for tuning in. And this is Stuka Joe signing off for now. Thanks for watching.